Hey everyone, greetings from Brno. Greetings from kind of a gloomy, rainy day here in Brno. Happy Beaujolais Nouveau to everybody. So always a great celebration, great time of year. Um, I wanted to kind of focus on a grape varietal today that I really love. This is one of the first grapes that I discovered in my early 20s that really had me thinking about different styles of wine and kind of breaking me out from my comfort zone in terms of wine. This grape is Pinot Blanc. Here in the Czech Republic, it's known as Rulanské Bílé. If you're watching in Germany or Austria, this wine is Weissburgunder. But I'm gonna call it Pinot Blanc because I'm American and that's what we call it. But going into this grape varietal, so like I was saying, I first had this grape in Alsace in France, and I loved the texture that this wine gave. It had this oily, slightly spiced texture. It wasn't overly fruity. It didn't have this really tropical or exotic fruit aromas like Riesling or Gewürztraminer, but the texture was what really got me. And ever since, I've been a huge fan of Pinot Blancs. So I was really surprised to see that it was grown in South Moravia and done in ways that I never imagined possible. So jumping into it, I am excited to show the contrast of Pinot Blanc with two very different producers in two slightly different regions of South Moravia. So going into it, the first wine that I'm showing today is Vinařství Plenér. So I'll hold the bottle up here. So the name of the winery is Plenér Winery, or Vinařství Plenér, labeled here. This is their Cuvée 3, meaning Cuvée 3. This is actually a Pinot Blanc Chardonnay blend. It's half and half. It's a 2016 vintage. There's a few things about this wine that I want to touch on before going into it. So, Vinařství Plenér has a female winemaker. Woohoo! So, Dominika Černohorska is the winemaker here. She's had the winery a few years with her business partner, Ivo, who is the investor for the winery. And they decided to go with the name Plenér because they wanted to make this connection between art and nature, making art in nature, and that's winemaking, making an art form. And I first tasted this wine actually in Brno City at Atelier Bistro, so thank you Milan for the heads up on this winery. I tasted this wine a few months ago and I fell in love with it. I just loved the texture and the aromas it gave and the complexity. So I decided to show this wine at a wine tasting at Clarabera Vino Bar about a month ago. And out of 8 wines, this was the hit of the night. This is a delicious bottle of wine. I was really stoked to see it on the shelf a few days ago when I picked it up. I got it at Borgo Shop, which is right down the street from where I live. Great little wine shop. They have not only Italian wine, but they have Moravian wine, French wine, Austrian wine. So really nicely curated selection. So I jumped out of my skin when I saw this bottle. I know it's sold out on Dominika's website, on the Plenér website. So I was really stoked to be able to bring one home. And they named it Cuvée 3 for a particular reason. So like I said, this wine is 2 grape varietals. It is Pinot Blanc and Chardonnay. However, the wine is matured in 3 separate vessels, hence Cuvée 3. So you'll see some symbols on the bottle here. I'll hold it up a little closer. You'll see what looks like an egg that represents a small wooden egg where part of the wine is matured, or a third of the wine is matured. A stainless steel tank symbol in the middle, and at the end, a larger wooden barrel. So each of these symbols represent a different maturation vessel where the wine aged and matured. This wine matured on fine lees for 10 months There's no sulfide addition in the wine. So this is a very complex, expressive bottle of wine, and very excited to show it here on this gloomy, rainy day in Brno. So I will hold the glass up for you to see. So the wine has a medium to pale lemon straw color. What I like about it is the viscosity. So as I kind of swirl it in my glass, you'll see these kind of waves going. It clings to the glass. It does have a higher alcohol content, about 13.5%. So that does lead to this viscosity. However, I really love this texture in wine, and that's what I'm always looking for, always craving. So let's give it a smell. So what I love about this, it has so many different layers kind of revealing themselves as the wine opens up. It has this caramel, nutty, vanilla, kind of popcorny note, almost like a butterscotch without being sweet, if that makes sense. Like those Werther's original butterscotches. My grandfather always used to have those in his house, so it's a great nostalgic memory for me. It's slight bits of like a yellow apple, yellow pear as well, but very creamy on the nose. Let's give it a taste. Nice, about medium acidity. Great texture on this wine. And that vanilla really does come through on the finish as well. Although this wine is partially matured in oak, it's done in used oak barrels, large used oak barrels. So none of that sweet spice comes through. It's not a heavily oaked wine. The maturation in these vessels, in these separate, very different contrasting vessels, leads to this balance when the wines are blended at the final state of bottling. And that was the intent for making this wine, to give this extra complexity from different maturation vessels. So I love this texture on the wine, this roundness, really weighty wine. So Vinařství Plenér is located, their winery is actually located in Pavlov, but she farms 3 different bits of land in Bavory, Klentnica, and Pavlov. She makes under 10,000 bottles a year. This is not a big production winery. This is a very small production winery. But Dominika is very adamant about bringing Moravian wines to the forefront. She helps to create the Mladí vinaři, the Young Winemakers Association. So very active in the Brno wine community. She's always attending tastings. If you're in Brno, actually this Saturday, she has an open cellar in Pavlov. So unfortunately, I can't make it. But if you are headed to South Moravia this weekend, definitely check out the open cellars. She's got delicious wine. And you can pick up her wines at Borgo Shop, right off Pekarska Street. So always excited to showcase Vinařství Plenér. And to represent the ladies out there, female winemaker, so gotta represent. All right, so going to the next very different contrast of Pinot Blanc, I am going to show Ota Ševčík. So I first found out about Ota Ševčík. This is the man behind the wine. He's been making wine since 1992. He is located in Božetica near Hustopeče. This is his Pinot Blanc 2014. And Ota Ševčík is integral in the creation of this low, minimal intervention, artisanal, organic wine movement taking hold of South Moravia. So he was one of the founders of Authentique Winemakers Association, so Authentic Winemakers Association. They put on a festival every summer in Božetica. This is where I first tasted Ota Ševčík's wines. And this complexity, this odd style of making wine, I really dug it immediately. What Ota Ševčík does with his method of making wine is keeping it really with minimal intervention, meaning he wants the grapes to be expressive of their inherent qualities. He does not add any sulfites to his wine. There's no filtration on his wine, no fertilizers in the vineyards. He farms about 2 hectares of land. So again, very small production, under 15,000 bottles a year. Does not have this massive factory making wine. He really focuses on making high quality but small yields of his wine. So with his Pinot Blanc, I was recommended this bottle by Pavel over at Vinotéka Knížat. So thank you, Pavel. Always great recommendations. I love showing these contrasts. So always interested to try Ota's wines to reveal this extra layer of complexity with his grape varietals. So this is his Pinot Blanc 2014. You're going to notice the color on this wine is pretty orange. I mean, it has this pumpkin color, very dark orange, almost like persimmons meets pumpkin. So the reason that this particular wine has this orange color is, from my understanding, from what Pavel explained to me, is that with this particular Pinot Blanc, Mr. Ševčík believes in deliberate oxidation, meaning the wine is matured in an acacia barrel. However, the acacia barrel is open, so oxygen is allowed to come in. How he pulls this off without the wine spoiling, I have absolutely no idea. I really need to figure this out. I tried to do a little research. I couldn't find anything on the web. So it is right about time for me to contact Mr. Ševčík and find out how he made this wine by using this deliberate oxidative technique. I mean, the color of this wine is really intense. It looks like there's been some skin contact as well. However, the wine's not very tannic. So this deliberate oxidative production method leads to this color. However, the wine is quite fruity on the nose. So there's this tropical fruit element, like a papaya mango note. But underneath that fruit is some saline and nuttiness, similar to a sherry, like an Amontillado sherry. So that oxidative technique, I'm sure, comes into play with that salinity. Let's give it a taste. So really more saline on the palate, actually, than on the nose. There is still some fruit. This wine is very plump. It sits right in the middle of my mouth, quite heavy. Lower alcohol, actually, than the Cuvée 3. But again, that roundness really comes through. And it does have this slight almond shaving brininess on the finish, similar to like an olive note to it, that saltiness that you get from eating olives. Slight hints of like an orange zest, or like a mandarin orange zest. But again, nice weight, not slight tannins, but it's not as tannic as an orange wine, definitely not as bitter. But that saline nuttiness really comes through on the finish. So I think these wines are just really exceptional for small producers here in South Moravia. I am so lucky that I get to try these exceptional wines from Vinařství Plenér and Ota Ševčík. Again, I picked this bottle up at Borgo Shop just down the road. It's right off Pekarska Street. It is located next to Borgo Agnese. It's just the offset shop where they sell their wine and sell different food products from Italy. Ota Ševčík's wine I picked up at Vinotéka Knížat, right in the city center. But in terms of complexity and nuances in these high-quality Moravian wines, I am continued to be blown away by these winemakers and these techniques that they're using, like different maturation vessels for Vinařství Plenér and deliberate oxidative techniques by Ota Ševčík. So keep making these delicious wines, South Moravia. I'm really looking forward to tasting more and exploring more of the region. So cheers to Pinot Blanc, one of my favorite little grape varietals. Cheers to you. I hope this weather turns around so we can enjoy a little Beaujolais Nouveau this afternoon in the sunshine. We'll see. I hope you enjoy and see you on the flip side. Cheers.